In this episode of From Fabric to Fit, I'm going to show you how to make this two-piece sweatsuit. We're going to go over the fabrics that I use as well as the pattern. Tip, one of these is a free pattern. And though I'm not going to give you a step-by-step sewing tutorial about making both of these pieces, I am going to highlight the simple steps of making a knit top, because whether it's a sweatshirt or a t-shirt, the steps are essentially the same with a few variations. And then we're going to highlight how to do a slant pocket as well as a pin tuck on a pair of knit pants. So come on, let's start sewing. I'm going to start with the fabric. This is a red heathered French terry that I actually got from Joanne, RIP to Joanne, when they were doing their going out of business sale. I grabbed it because I like a good French terry. It had to have been on a pretty good sale for me to grab it, even though the sales at the end weren't really that great. I'm guessing that I paid a little bit less than $5 a yard for this, but that's just a guess. It's a French terry, it's nice, it's lightweight, it's not super heavy. It has a sort of smooth finish on the right side, but of course on the wrong side, what makes a French terry is this towel-like texture or finish on the back. So this is not going to be a super heavy duty sweatsuit. It's more like right now in this fall transition phase when there's a little chill in the air, but it's not exactly cold. For this sweatsuit, I decided to use the KC cropped sweatshirt pattern from So Much Ado. I chose this pattern because it's a free pattern, and I want to start doing more reviews on free patterns because I feel like those are just a little bit more accessible to beginner sewists who don't know if they want to invest the money in a pattern yet because they're not completely sold on sewing. I think that this is going to be a good one. I have never made it before. Now, most of So Much Ado patterns are only available in one size because they're free patterns, but this one she actually graded from an extra small to an extra, extra large. So we do have some decent coverage here. The size chart says that this covers from a 33-inch to a 45-inch bust. She also says that you can size up or down considering how much of an oversized fit you want. I am a 44-inch bust, and the extra, extra large is a 45-inch on the size chart. So I am going to sew the extra, extra large. For the pants, I'm going to use Made for Mermaids Winnie pattern. I love Made for Mermaids, and I love this pattern. This is actually my favorite wide leg knit pull-on pattern. If I'm going to make a two-piece set of any kind with a knit, it's probably going to be using these bottoms. The tops may vary, but it's probably going to be these bottoms. I've made these before. They always turn out great. I am going to be sewing the full length view with the slant pocket, the pin tuck, and probably the drawstring. I have to make sure that I have the right color string for this. So these are going to come together quickly, and I'm going to go over a little bit of how you sew a slant pocket as well as how you do the pin tuck. So let's get to the next step, which is cutting. Most loose-fitting knit tops are going to have a front and back that are cut on the fold. So here you can see that I have my fabric folded towards the center, and I'm cutting out my front and back pieces and transferring my notches. One tip I have for you for any pattern piece that has a center front or center back is to make an additional notch at the neckline and the hemline, regardless of whether that notch is on the pattern piece. It just makes everything easier to line up later. Let's go over the pieces. First, you should have a front and a back piece, as well as two sleeves. And then you have the neckband, and you can see here that I have made the notch at the center front. There's also going to be two bands, one for each sleeve, as well as the hemband for the sweatshirt itself. All right, now we are finally ready to sew. We are going to place the front on top of the back, making sure that the right sides are facing. This just means that the side that you want to be seen at the end faces the inside right now. You can see that this loopy side is on the outside for right now. And we are going to pin together at the shoulder seams on both sides. And I just want to make sure that you see here that I did do a notch at the center front, and I did a triple notch at the center back. And this was just so I could tell the pieces apart, as well as it'll be easier to attach the neckline later. Here we have the neckband, which I have pinned together at the short end. We also have the sleeve bands and the hemband. Now I'm just going to take all of my pin pieces over to my sewing machine, where I am going to use a straight stitch at about a 2.5 or 3.0 length to sew all these seams together. These aren't seams that are actually going to be affected by the stretch, so I'm just using a straight stitch, but if you want to be on the safe side, you can definitely do a narrow zigzag. I'm going to finish all my raw edges off with my serger because I have one and I love it. If you don't have one, you can of course finish it off with a zigzag stitch or an overcast stitch on your sewing machine. You could also use pinking shears because you're making this fabric with a knit. You don't really have to worry about it fraying anyway. You could actually not finish off the raw edges at all. Now that the shoulder seams and the neckband are sewn together, it's time to attach the two. We are going to take the seam of the neckband and match it up with the center back of the sweatshirt or the neck opening. And remember, I made a triple notch there, so we're going to pin there. And then you're going to pin the center front notch of the band to the center front notch of the front. I told you those notches were going to come in handy. Now, when you're pinning this the rest of the way around, you are going to have to stretch the neckband. The neckband always is a little bit smaller than the neck hole opening because you need a little bit of tension in the neckband in order for it to lay flat. You're going to use as many pins as you need as you ease this around. Just try to distribute the stretch evenly around the shirt, and then we're going to take it over to the sewing machine, where this time we are going to use a narrow zigzag stitch because the neckband will get stretched over time. I also chose to top stitch mine with a zigzag stitch as well. I went ahead and added my label here. You can see that I've also gone ahead and pinned the sleeve to the armhole. In this sweatshirt, because of the drop shoulder and sort of the dolman style sleeve of it, it's actually really easy. There's not much of a curve here, so you're just going to go ahead and line up the edges and pin straight across. Take it to the sewing machine, sew, serge, or finish however you like, and then repeat for the other sleeve. Okay, now you can see it's starting to look like a sweatshirt. We have both sleeves attached, and now what we need to do is finish off the sides, and we're going to do that by pinning and then sewing both sides of the sweatshirt, starting from the hem going all the way up to the armhole. All right, guys, we are on our final steps of this sweatshirt. What we're going to do here is attach the sleeve bands and the hem band to the sweatshirt. This is going to go just like the neckband. You're going to take those seams of the bands and line them up with the seams of the sweatshirt, and then ease it around in the hole. They're again going to be smaller than the openings themselves, so the sleeve bands may be a little tight when you take it to your sewing machine. That's why most sewing machines have that removable arm. So if you can do that, that will help. Use as many pins as you need and sew around them, again using a zigzag stitch because these seams will stretch, and then you're all set. All right, so a little over an hour and a half later, I have a finished Casey cropped sweatshirt. This again is a free sweatshirt pattern from So Much Ado. It is available in a size extra small to extra, extra large. The extra, extra large says a 45-inch bust on the size chart, and I am a 44-inch bust. So you can see it's definitely giving me that oversized fit with some room here in the bust. Overall, I am really pleased with this sweatshirt. I mean, especially for a free pattern, you can't really complain. It gives you everything that it promises, which is a cropped sweatshirt with drop shoulders, a relaxed fit. That's what it is. So usually I do prefer a raglan sleeve, which is why I considered the chalk and notch page, but this drop shoulder is okay. Sometimes I find them aggravating as I find myself trying to do like this all day, but in this very overall oversized, like relaxed fit, I don't think it's going to bother me at all. This is also a really lightweight fleece, so you can see it has a little bit of like drape to it. If you sewed this with a more structured or heavier sweatshirt fleece, you would get a little bit of a different look. It's just not going to be as drapey and flowy, but I don't think either one is better than the other. It just depends on the fabric that you have and like what season you're trying to sew it for. This will be really good now for the fall because this is lightweight, but this is not going to keep me warm in the dead of winter. So this is definitely a like right now outfit. Overall, I think I would give this pattern like a 5 out of 5. It's really easy to sew. It came together again very quickly. I don't have any complaints except for I think they could have put a few more notches in places. I do think there is some like puckering here at the sleeve because of the stretch I had to do to ease it in. That may be amplified by the fact that I'm using this lightweight fabric, but all in all, it comes together easily and quickly. I didn't use the instructions at all because, again, once you've sewn one knit top, you can pretty much sew them all, or at least all the basic ones. So I can't tell you what they what they give you as far as instructions, but it is a blog post on their site, which I guess you could print out and store with your pattern pieces. But I didn't even bother reading over it. I just went straight to sewing. So the top is done. Next up, the Winnie pants. But that's going to have to be another day. It's time for dinner. So cutting out pants definitely takes a little bit more real estate. I thought I was going to be able to do this front and back pant piece on the width of this 60-inch fabric. But as you can see here on the fold, I can't squeeze both pieces in, so I had to stagger them a little, which was fine. I had more than enough fabric. In that piece that sort of is wasted over there on the side, I was able to cut out the pockets. There are several different ways to transfer your pin tuck line from your pattern piece to your fabric. You could use tracing paper and go over it with a tracing wheel. You could fold the pattern piece in half along the pin tuck line and mark it that way. But what I typically like to do is do a notch at the top and the bottom of the pin tuck, and then use a yardstick to draw a straight line from one notch to the other. And that line will represent where you're going to fold your fabric and pin along that line to create the pin tuck on your sewing machine. Now over at your machine, you're going to want to put your fabric under your presser foot and then move your needle to create about a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, because you just need a very narrow seam to create this pin tuck. And I do like to hand crank my wheel for the first few stitches so that my machine doesn't eat up the fabric, especially if you're working with a knit. But once you get a few stitches in, you can go ahead and press on that pedal and sew down the entire length of your pant leg. That we have the pin tuck sewn, we're going to move on to the slant pocket. I actually find slant pockets easier to sew than inseam pockets, so this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to take that pocket lining and place it right side spacing along the front pant leg and pin along that angled line. Now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and simply sew this seam. I'm giving this seam a good press, making sure that the seam allowance is going towards the pocket lining. And then I'll take this back to my sewing machine to do a second stitch very next to this seam to catch the seam allowance to the pocket lining. This is called understitching. Now that we have that done, we're going to go ahead and attach the actual pocket or the pocket bag. And again, we're going to place these right side spacing, pinning along the curved edge of the pocket bag. Now that the pocket is complete and the raw edge is finished, I'm simply going to baste the pocket to the top and the side of the front pant leg. The front pant leg is now complete, so we can attach the front pant leg to the back pant leg at the inner seam. So this means from the bottom of this crotch curve here to the hem of the pant, and we repeat that for both legs. Now that the front and back are attached for both sides, we are going to lay one leg over the other and sew this curved crotch seam. Now that the crotch is sewn, you can see that they are starting to look like pants. We're going to turn this so the right sides are facing, pin along the outer leg seam, and sew a straight line from the top of the pants to the hem. Now that our pants legs are complete, you can see how this pocket functions and the slant pocket looks great. Now all we need to do is attach the waistband and hem the pants. I've chosen to do the multi-channel elastic waistband here. So similarly to how I transferred the pin tuck line is how I'm going to transfer the stitching lines for the channels for the elastic. Now I can sew together the short end of the waistband, take it over to my sewing machine and stitch the stitch lines to create the channels. Now my channels are not perfectly straight and parallel, but I don't care. Once I have it on, you're not going to be able to tell. I could have redone this, but I chose not to. Now inserting the elastic here was probably the most annoying part of this whole sewing project, but I used this 1/4 inch elastic to feed through each channel. Starting with the top one, you can see here. At this point, I slipped into the waistband only to get the tension right on my elastic. Once I got it to a place where it felt comfortable on, I took it back to my cutting table, and here I trimmed off the excess elastic that I didn't need, pulled this elastic out, and cut out 4 more pieces at the same length. I went ahead and fed all of the elastic through each one of the channels and attached the waistband to the sweatpants and did another quick try on to see if everything fit. All right, the waistband fits nicely. I like how it hits here. The elastic is about the right length. I still have the pins in it here, so now that I know that this fits well, it's staying up, it's not pulling down or anything like that, I'll go ahead and stitch all 5 rows of the elastic shut. You can also see here that the length is good. I'll probably fold this under 1 inch or do a double 1/2 inch hem. This will hit like right at the top of my foot. Overall, they fit pretty good. They are a little tighter than I expected them to be. I might need to either go up on the size or reduce the seam allowance at the inner and outer leg. But these are definitely wearable. I don't particularly love how you can see this pocket coming through. And that's just because this French terry is a little thin and it is pulling a little bit more in the hips. So you can just see it, but it's fine. It's not a deal breaker for me. I'm okay with it. The pockets are nice and big. See, my whole hand fits in there. These are, again, my favorite elastic pull-on pants. So I love everything about these. I could have made them, again, a little smidge bigger in the hips, but I'll definitely wear them. Maybe if I go back to the gym, I'll lose a couple of pounds and then they'll fit perfect. But for right now, they're definitely wearable, and I am going to sew down this elastic and serge the raw edge of the waistband hitting the pants, and then we'll do the hem and I'll do a full try on of the sweatsuit set. All right, I am finally done with my sweatsuit set here, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Of course, I have it on so you guys can see how it fits. First up, for the sweatshirt, we use the Casey cropped sweatshirt by So Much Ado. It is a free pattern, so I have no complaints with it being a free pattern. I sold the extra large because I am a 44 or 45 inch bust, and I think it gives you that slightly oversized, like relaxed fit, which is great. It does feature a drop shoulder. You have hem bands at the sleeve, the hem, and the neckline, so everything has a nice clean banded finish. If you had a matching rib knit or a contrasting rib knit, a rib knit would be really great for this as well, but it worked perfectly fine in the same fabric. Like I said, you can see overall the fit is sort of relaxed and comfy cozy, so no complaints there. I would definitely suggest it if you're looking for a simple sweatshirt pattern, and the bonus is, of course, that it is free. It will be linked in the description box below, of course. Now, moving on to the pants, I do have on the Winnie from Made for Mermaid. These are my favorite knit pants pattern. I use them for everything. This is maybe my 3rd time making them, so I'm very pleased. I did opt to do the slant pocket this time, which I don't think I've done in the past, which I really like. I also opted for the elastic waistband, so I have 5 rows of 3/8 of an inch elastic going through it. So that fits really nicely. There's an option to do the drawstring. There is also an option for just a self-fitting waistband, more like a yoga band that doesn't have any extra elastic in it. So there are definitely options. This is the 30-inch inseam, which for me, again, I'm 5'5", works pretty well. I did 1.25 inch hem on these, and they hit pretty much where I want them to land. When I wear that with sneakers, they won't really drag, so I think overall that'll be really good. The pockets are a nice size. My French terry is pretty light, so I won't probably be putting much in this pockets because you'll get a lot of drag. But again, this French terry is from Joann before they went out of business. I had a 2-yard and a 3-yard remnant to make this set. I was able to make the top as well as the pockets and the band out of the 2-yard remnant piece. And then I made the 2 legs out of the front and back leg out of the 3-piece remnant, and I probably have enough left over maybe to make like a little cropped tee. So I might do that because this is lightweight enough that I could wear it when the temps start to get a little warmer as well. So the cropped tee would give me just like, you know, a different look to go into another season. But like I said, overall, I'm really pleased with this. It does exactly what I wanted it to do, which was be a comfy, cozy, matching set to wear on a nice, crisp fall day. And this definitely delivers. If you were interested in either one of these patterns, I would definitely give both like a 5 out of 5. Clear directions, good drafting, the sizing is on point. Oh, the Winnies are a yellow, which is what I usually sew in Made for Mermaids. I must have put on a few pounds because they're a little tight, but Usually I can get by with the yellow. I'm a 48-inch hip, and then it's an extra, extra large for the top. I think that's everything. Let me know what you're sewing for fall. Let me know like your favorite thing to sew for fall. I usually love to sew coats and cardigans and things, but I really need some staple pieces, which is why this set was a must sew. And I'm very pleased with how it turned out.